HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Statesman and the Storyteller, John Hay, Mark Twain, and the Rise of American Imperialism, by Mark Zwonitzer. Read by Joe Barrett. Prologue. I set out to write a simple and circumscribed book, the story of the final 10 years in the life of one man, John Hay. Hay was the United States of America's ambassador in London in 1897 and 1898, at a time when that city was the seat of the most impressive empire the world had ever known, and then U.S. Secretary of State from 1898 until his death in 1905. He was appointed to his position in the cabinet by President William McKinley, and stayed on at the command of his friend Theodore Roosevelt after McKinley's assassination. Hay had first known of Roosevelt when he was a 5-year-old, called T.D. These public offices landed John Hay in the center of action at a pivot point of American history, a rampaging epoch that introduced habits of conduct our national leaders employ to this day. The United States of America fought its first full-scale overseas war in those years, and took its first steps toward displacing Great Britain as the most potent military and commercial power in the world. The United States took possession or control of Hawaii, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, a piece of the Samoan Islands, the Philippines, and a good bit of Panama. The national reach spread east, west, and south. It would have spread north into Canada, too, if Theodore Roosevelt had had his way. The justifications for this explosive expansion of national aim and activity, much of which could be fairly judged by disinterested observers as extra-constitutional. "Oh, Mr. President," the U.S. Attorney General reportedly said after Roosevelt secured ownership and control of the Panama Canal zone, "do not let so great an achievement suffer from any taint of legality," were explicitly and loudly articulated by its projectors. The spread of democracy and Western civilization, the opening of new markets for American business, the national defense, the supremacy of the white man, and even God's will. There was also much talk of abstractions such as patriotism, honor, and duty. John Hay was not one to expound these things in public or to thump his own chest, but he was a force in shaping decisions and outcomes. He was also a thoughtful observer throughout, having arrived at the State Department with a long and personal perspective on national events. Hay's career in public service began in 1861, when he was just 22 years old, as one of Abraham Lincoln's 2 private secretaries in the White House. The beardless youth was shy to boast of his place. When a college friend congratulated him on his position, John Hay joked it away. "Yes," he answered, "I'm keeper of the president's conscience." But he was at Lincoln's side through the worst of the Civil War, when the country was in very real peril of disintegration, and the sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of its slaughtered citizens appeared to be too little to save it. Hay had seen and felt the awful burdens the presidency could place on a single mortal man, and he wasn't one to forget. He also knew to keep a record. Like his Civil War diaries, John Hay's letters, diaries, and official correspondence from 1895 to 1905 are clear-eyed, frank, amusing, and intimate. They also reveal a rich supporting cast: Presidents McKinley and Roosevelt, Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, a forgotten media mogul and political gadfly named Whitelaw Reid, Lord Salisbury, who stood at the head of Her Majesty's vast empire, Her Majesty herself, Victoria, Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, and Empress of India, her son Bertie, the Prince of Wales, and her Prussian grandson, the dangerous loon Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany. There are also Hay's closest friends, Henry Adams and Clarence King. Adams was, at the approach of the 20th century, a nasty, crabbed little man who wielded a wicked pen, and King a renowned scientist whose hidden life hints at a future beyond John Hay's imagination. Then, too, there is Alvia D., a wee, near-deaf colleague of Hay's, who anchored the State Department for more than a generation, and also Hay's own son, Dell, then making his own first marks in public service. The Countess Marguerite Cassini, quasi-legitimate daughter of the Russian ambassador, her grandson Oleg would dress Jacqueline Kennedy, the First Lady, makes an appearance.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?